idea to lower interest rates, but no, I have no intention to fire him.
All that, plus I'm going to go one-on-one, head-to-head with the Democrats who just got El Salvador. But first, parents say no to woke insanity. Yes, that's the focus of tonight's angle. Donald Trump promised to make America great again, but he wasn't just talking about the economy or our health. Public education also needs rescuing. Sex and gender radicals, we know they're working overtime to sideline parents, subvert their authority, and keep them in the dark, if at all possible, about what their kids are learning. But today at the Supreme Court, a case out of the far-left Montgomery County, Maryland, should give us hope that slowly but surely we may be reclaiming the high ground in our schools. First, understand this. Montgomery County, Maryland school board members think that parents have no right, none, to object to their children being exposed to sexually inappropriate, most would say deviant materials. Second, liberal parents love having their sons and daughters steeped in this filth, but the parents objecting are actually themselves a diverse group.
Mr. Connors here. May I help you, madam?
Mostly families from Muslim faith and Ethiopian Orthodox who are objecting.
I'll send one of our best drivers right away.
The board accused them of using their religious beliefs as another reason to hate. Accused a young Muslim girl of parroting her parents' dogma, and then accused the parents of aligning with racist xenophobes and white supremacists.
Okay, so this is sick stuff. By the way, do you think those folks came legally from their homeland to come here to have their kids taught like that? I don't think so. That's not what they thought they were getting in America. But the books in this curriculum are for, remember, kindergarten through 5th grade. To give you an idea what 5-year-olds in Montgomery County are learning, look no further than Pride Puppy, about a dog going to the Pride Parade with its family. At the end of the book, there's even a search and find word list. It includes the words intersex, drag queens, lace, and leather. Lovely. Justice Kavanaugh today pressed the Montgomery County attorney about why they simply didn't allow students to opt out.
Every other school board in the country has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The county has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The other Maryland counties have opt-outs for all sorts of things. And yet for this one thing, they changed in mid-year and say no more opt-outs. I'm just not understanding feasibility.
With respect to these books, as they were deployed in the classroom, there was high absenteeism in some schools. For example, dozens of students being opted out.
I love it. I love saying the books deployed. But that's it. Look, they force total compliance, no opt-out, because total indoctrination is their goal.
Montgomery County offers a free public education to parents only if their children use books featuring same-sex relationships and transgender issues. That burdens parents of multiple faiths whose religious duty is to shield their young children from such content.
100% right. But congratulations, Montgomery County. You're now known as the religious bigotry capital of the United States. You're so intolerant, you even lost Justice Kagan.
I too was struck by these are, young kids, picture books, and on matters concerning sexuality.
Hi, what do you need?
Non-religious parents.
One limo coming up.
Thrilled about this, and then you add in religion, and that's even more serious.
Now, to be clear, this case isn't even close. It shouldn't be. The ruling should be 9-0 in favor of the parents. But then again, the Constitution, religious liberty, parental rights, they don't seem to matter as much to certain justices who sound like they're frustrated MSNBC pundits.
The parent can choose to put their kid elsewhere. You don't have to send.
Oh, that's the bitch that don't know what a fucking woman is. I mean, a woman is. What the fuck is you using her as somebody to say somebody this is that? She don't know what the fucking woman is. She a woman of damn self. Ask her what the fucking definition of woman is. She couldn't even tell you.
Justice Jackson, God bless her, studied a different common law than I did.
God damn it.
Not sure what she studied. It's unconscionable that a sitting Supreme Court justice would contend that it is constitutionally permissible to penalize Christian or Muslim parents for exercising their religious liberty rights.
Bunch of fucking bullshit.
That is the smug response on my local parenting blog to parents who cannot, in good conscience, risk their children being taught lessons about sexuality.
Who want to risk their fucking children, bitch? Who wants to risk their fucking children?
Has essentially told us that we do not get a final say in our children's education. No notice, no consent, no choice.
These mothers are awesome, by the way. Congratulations for having the guts to speak out. But it gets a lot worse because these leftists are trying to intimidate other parents from resisting their school's sexual propaganda. Because the sense is you oppose them and they're going to somehow maybe even take it out on your kids. Maybe your kid won't get a recommendation to go on to the next school, or they're just going to paint you as a cruel anti-rainbow hater.
There are kids who go home to rainbow.
Bitch, your freaky ass should be fired. Nobody should listen to that goddamn thing you say, you freaky fucking bastard, you.
Are LGBTQ+. And the reality that we're talking about today is people want to erase us.
Bitch, you just made you up, bitch.
Erase us from existing.
No fucking LGBTQ. Wow.
We're not.
There's not an eraser big enough.
Fuck right. No eraser big enough.
These people should not be allowed
fuck no, where's no children? No, nowhere near no fucking children.
Because it's also really dumb.
People don't live just one life. They have many identities that intersect. And we must look at this interconnectedness of people's race, gender, sexual orientation, disability.
Y'all just a bunch of fucking freaky ass old motherfuckers that won't fuck the fucking kids up. Fuck y'all.
We must do so to bring people together and not divide them. Our schools need to be places of joy, safety, and visibility.
Oh, visibility. I'll be an ally. But there's nothing safe about learning with these people in charge. American history, Western civilization, the great works, human biology. They want the truth buried and replaced by their worldview where children are treated like sexual silly putty to be molded by teachers who can undo the damage done by traditional parents. And by the way, all their platitudes they mouth about diversity, but what they really demand is conformity.
No child should be shielded from the reality of human diversity.
Look, no, man. They're too fucking young in kindergarten, bro. In kindergarten.
Learning about people different from themselves is to teach them that ignorance is a virtue. A diverse education is not indoctrination. It is illumination.
Oh my goodness, is that painful? Well, from the sound of things at oral arguments today, you can never totally predict, but it seems like the majority of justices aren't buying any of this. And when the court's decision is handed down in June, you should expect the usual eruptions from all the usual suspects who somehow landed jobs in schools. And that's the end. Joining me now, Brittany Morrison, one of the Montgomery County parents suing the school board. She was at the oral arguments today at the court. Also joining me, Ian Pryor, old friend, senior advisor from America First Legal. The group filed an amicus brief in support of the parents' case. Let's start with you. I mentioned it in the angle, but even Justice Kagan, who's can be somewhat moderate on some of these issues. She's not a dumb person. She's very smart. Seemed concerned with young children being exposed to these types of books. Were you surprised to hear that from her?
I wasn't surprised because what I see out in the community is what I saw in the courtroom today, that this is a majority issue. Most people don't think we should be indoctrinating and pounding our children with these materials in the name of love and respect. And I saw that same concern that she raised from her. So I would expect to see that.
Yeah, well, my staff actually went out and bought these books today, so I had the chance to go through them. First of all, it's bad writing, and it's just it's so warped. And you and I have talked about this before. It's so bad. It's so warped. It's so obvious what they're doing. There was a moment though during oral arguments that I think sums up how absurd and inane this whole case is. Watch.
Crying Puppy was the book that was used for.
Give Sean my number.
That's no longer in the curriculum.
That's the one where they are supposed to look for the leather and things and bondage things
Or
like that.
it's
not
either or.
It's a woman in a leather
Sex worker, right?
Yeah.
No?
That's not correct. Yeah.
Gosh, I read it. Greg.
Correct. The leather that they're pointing to is a woman in a leather jacket, and one of the words is drag queen.
And they're supposed to look for those.
It is an option at the end of the book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to laugh, but because it's not funny, it's serious, but it just shows the absurdity of the arguments. And there were a lot of moments in this oral argument that I thought were fascinating. For example, Montgomery County Public Schools, one of the school board members said something at one of these meetings about how, oh, you're just going to use religion to hide your bigotry because these school board members think they're untouchable. Well, that school board member, her conversation to a parent at that meeting became a central focal point at Supreme Court oral arguments on this monumental case. So I think people that are on school boards that think they're untouchable and that they get elected and that the only thing that matters is whether they get reelected. No, that's not the case. You're going to find your comments played at the Supreme Court of the United States.
But what I love about this is that because so many parents feel like they can't, you can't fight City Hall. You can't. What are you going to do? Because you want the recommendation, or you don't want to be the parent that always kicks up a fuss, right? That never bothers me, by the way, Grace, but it does bother some people. But the fact that you all fought this, you got Ian and other groups to support you, and they no longer can do this with impunity. Parents are not going to put up with this. You will not take our children and try to twist their minds around whatever sexual agenda you have. We're not going to let it happen.
Not the kids. In kindergarten?
Yes, I agree.
Come on, not in kindergarten.
I have a daughter who was adopted from Ukraine as an infant. She was in schools from the age of 3 till 10, and we found out that she would, in her special needs class, they were presenting these materials. I had had a good relationship with the teacher, but then I approached her and said, I have to, opt out my child. This isn't appropriate. It's opposed to her faith and what I believe she can handle. And I was told, no, there's no more opt-outs. There is no more notification. So the wall went up. I went to the principal, and I was told, talking about diversity, I was told that there was no room for my daughter in the public school system if I wouldn't adhere to this policy.
Yeah, they don't want your daughter. They don't want anyone who's traditional. They want to push every Christian, every Muslim, with any traditional understanding out of the public school. Well, good luck. I don't know how that public school is actually going to actually work out. Another book at issue here is called Born Ready. It's about a girl named Penelope who wants to tell her family that inside she's a boy. No propaganda there. If they'd all stop and listen, I'd tell them about me. Inside, I'm a boy. In young kids,
make believe fucking
kids,
nonsense.
Sensitive kids, read that. And
fuck up all of the kids' common sense.
But there is an agenda.
We got some fucking adults that straight up fucking stupid.
Full stop.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's absolutely the case. And I think when you look at what Montgomery County Public Schools is doing here, and the justices talked about it, in health class, for example, this stuff can be taught, but you can opt out of health class because of state law. So what MCPS does is they take these books and they put it in English class where you can't opt out. So you can opt out in health class because legally you're required to, but we're going to sneak this into English and history and whatever, and we're going to make it part of what they are essentially indoctrinated with. And you don't get a choice. Now, one of the things that I think
this
Justice Kagan said was that there's so many people opting out. Well, great.
It actually fucks a kid up. This make-believe nonsense. It literally stops the kid from using common sense. Because a lot of fucking adults don't use fucking common sense because of this make-believe nonsense. Wow. Are we really this fucking stupid?
Like you have in Florida, you have in Texas, have in South Dakota, other states, Tennessee. You gotta get it. Because these schools go away. Either get with the program of parental rights, or they'll just wither on the vine. So that's why parental choice in education, another important reason. Great to Ian, thank you for bringing us inside the courtroom. We really appreciate it. And Mexico is still sending us literal, you know what, you fill in the rest. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin is here with an update, and it's rather smelly. Next. Now, we first gave you a whiff of this story a few weeks ago. Mexico seems to be repaying us for taking all those migrants in during the Biden years, millions of them, by sending sewage into the Tijuana River, which of course flows onto the beaches south of San Diego. Now, truth be told, this is
our kids is all that matters.
It might be getting even worse. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin traveled to San Diego to stay in the loop about the poop.
The American for decades are out of patience. There's no way that we are going to stand before the people of California and
joining me now, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Mr. Administrator, thank you for joining us. Now, people are out of patience for this. I have a lot of friends in the Imperial Beach, San Diego area, but what can we do to fix this? What leverage do we have, to use President Trump's favorite word?
So yesterday evening, I met with the Mexican environmental secretary, and what was really interesting feedback from her, there's a new Mexican president, and there was a conveyance that this Mexican president wants to work closely with President Trump, wants to finally resolve this issue. And then when you balance that with very limited patience, you would say, okay, great, but we have to get this done right now. What's the timetable to get it done as fast as humanly possible? For those around the country who aren't familiar with this issue, you have a public health issue. It's with smell, degradation of the Tijuana River Valley, beach closures, and more. Decades of raw sewage coming across, which has been continuing. And the people, as you all know, Laura, of your friends who live there, they're done with it. They want it ended. For Mexico, they need to obligate the remaining $88 million of their agreement for funding on Mexico's side projects. They need to finish construction to divert what is 10 million gallons per day from the Tijuana River Valley to the Tijuana Dam. They just completed the San Antonio de los Buenos water treatment plant. And that list goes on. We need the full list over the top, or this is done with and in the past for good.
Mr. Administrator, where's Gavin Newsom? I mean, has he gotten in touch with you? I mean, he wants to kind of look like he's the problem solver now that he's going to run for president. So he's kind of taking issue with some of what the Democrats are doing a little bit around the edges. But this is his state. Is he as mad about this as you are, and as people like I am?
I can't even begin to attempt to speak for him on this one. I don't know. I will say that there are a lot of local elected officials who are very outspoken. There are a lot of federal elected officials that are outspoken. And what I heard from some of the state legislators who are present today is that they would like the state to get more active in this.
Well, all I can say is California is a beautiful state. It's time to take California back from the insanity and madness. Mr. Administrator, thank you very much. And why are Democrats defending a deported illegal gang member? We're going to ask one of them, who was just in El Salvador. Next. After Donald Trump beat Kamala Harris like a drum in November, Democrats needed a reset. They needed to reconnect with the middle of the country, middle America. They need to reconnect with them, not repel them. And what better way to do that than to carry the torch for a deported illegal alien gangbanger who they want undeported immediately.
I am here in El Salvador with the People's House Democrats advocating for the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
We also had the opportunity to meet with U.S. Embassy officials to express our concerns about the treatment of Kilmar Andre and the hundreds of others who have been illegally imprisoned in El Salvador.
We went to make sure that we could advocate for the release of Abrego Garcia.
In a dramatic rush, four House Democrats, Maxwell Frost, Robert Garcia, Maxine Dexter, and Yasmin Ansari, traveled to El Salvador to check on Mr. Abrego Garcia, who is being held at the CICAD Supermax prison amidst an ongoing legal battle over whether he must be returned. Joining me now is Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari. Congresswoman, thank you very much for being here. We're going to see where this legal process takes us, as I said the other night, and I understand your view on that point. But what was your point in traveling to El Salvador? Senator Van Hollen had just been there.
To me, there is nothing more American than due process and the rule of law. The fact that Donald Trump is defying a 9-0 Supreme Court order that has said very clearly that the United States government must facilitate the return of Omar Abrego Garcia is extremely, extremely important. And the fact that the president continues to defy that Supreme Court order, to me, this is also a bipartisan issue. We have had a conservative-leaning Supreme Court say that he must be returned, a Reagan-appointed judge say that this should be shocking to every American, and also Joe Rogan, who has said that due process is one of the foundations of our freedom. So I want to make sure that the president abides by the law and actually follows the law.
I just so I understand. I understand your position, but you went to El Salvador because of Joe Rogan, and you think that your trip to El Salvador would somehow deliver the process? And what do you think is the process for Mr. Abrego Garcia?
I believe that the president is following the law in this case, and so far he has not. Okay, so
yeah.
If I sorry, so much.
Yeah.
It's very important. Members of Congress.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
I did so. I think talking over. Let me just ask you a question, and then you answer. Okay. Let me just ask it. Let me answer a question, then you can answer. Sorry, that's annoying for the viewers. So again, you traveled to all the way to El Salvador, and there are obviously huge problems in Arizona right now. There's huge problems still with dealing with smuggling of drugs and individuals and all the carnage that left behind. But you went to El Salvador to basically make a political point. I mean, Van Hollen had just been there and just checked on the individual in question, and he was okay. You would admit that he was okay.
So we actually went with the lawyer of the family, who was very, very grateful. The family themselves put out a statement to say that they are grateful that we went because they are worried that the president is trying to brush this case under the rug. The president made very clear in the Oval Office he has no plans to follow the Supreme Court, and so we are not going to be the last ones to go to El Salvador and demand that the United States government take action. My constituents asked me to do this. Over the last 2 weeks, there's no issue that we have gotten more calls about, more messages about than this issue, because I represent a very diverse community, and people are concerned that if this can happen to someone without due process, tomorrow it can happen to a U.S. citizen, and that's exactly what the Supreme Court also is concerned about. So we will continue to advocate for that, and we will continue to advocate for the rule of law.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the Supreme Court and how that works there. The word facilitate was, well, again, we'll see how this all works out, and I don't know how it's ultimately going to come down. But I am very interested in Democrats caring about due process for illegal aliens. What process do you think is still due an individual who two courts found had reasonable belief to believe he had an affiliation with MS-13, who his wife initially said had scratched her and caused a bruising on her body? What process would make you feel like the Constitution and our framework's understanding of it would be fulfilled?
So you and I can disagree on, this individual in particular. I'm here to really advocate for one person. That needs to happen in court. No,
what are you talking about? You went to El Salvador. Now you're saying it's not about
due process.
You went to El Salvador for a political study, and now you're saying it's not about him.
It is about this case. Laura, it is about the rule of law. This is a bipartisan issue. It transcends partisan politics. That's why a conservative-leaning Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump must facilitate the return of this individual. This is very dangerous. We are turning into an authoritarian country, and there are Americans from all across the political spectrum who are deeply concerned about this. Again, my office has not received
more calls about any other issue since I have been a congresswoman than this one. Tariffs being the second one, and the lack of real logic economic policy. But the issue of process. No, these are waiting and all the other the issue.
All right, and the economy is a mess. Well, before we go, before we go, Congresswoman, also in Maryland, I know citizens and crimes committed against them might not be a top priority. It is for this show. An illegal alien from Guatemala was just charged with his girlfriend's murder in Maryland, same state, of course, Mr. Abrego Garcia is from. She was missing for 2 weeks, mother of 2 young kids. Police found her buried in a forest. Do you know about this story? Do your constituents care about those victims? And do you intend on calling that family, since Maryland residents are obviously a concern in some way, shape, or form for you and all the people of your state?
I'm appalled by any violence that takes place in this country. As a former city official, I have a very strong pro-public safety record, and that's why I believe in the rule of law, and that's why this case is so important. I think these questions are a distraction from the main issue, which is that Donald Trump is defying the supreme threat of the United States, and every American should be concerned about this.
Congresswoman, I know you can't mean that, and I'm kind of like got you here. I know you don't. Every American are distracted.
Their victims are changing the subject. Today we are here to talk about the lack of due process for an individual who was illegally deported from this country. That is the subject. But you have any other act of violence.
Everyone understands. Yeah, well, the violence committed by legal immigrants against innocent Mexicans and legal immigrants has been appalling.
It is devastating. It's all too violent. I want to
for Democrats and for like they cared about that. Well, yeah, they go right now. Now,
you're married, but we're monitoring something about the crisis.
Right. Oh, the Constitution.
We are worried about the constitutional crisis and the lack of this president following the Supreme Court. Okay, I'm sure you believe in the Supreme Court.
Were you worried when? I know this is the progressive way of dealing with interviews where you just, I'm not trying to talk over you, I'm actually trying to get a question answered. I asked you a simple question. What process is due Abrego Garcia in the United States that you believe he has not received or could receive if he's undeported, which is the Democrats' priority, undeport him, bring him back here? What process do you want him to receive that would make you happy and feel good? Could he ever be deported?
It's very clear. The Supreme Court says return him, and in court we can have a discussion about what action should be taken.
No.
This administration admitted that they made a mistake.
It doesn't matter to you.
This administration admitted that they made a mistake.
I don't think he matters to you,
Mr. Garcia.
I think
this is a fact, Laura. Unfortunately, you're not sticking to the facts of the case, which is that.
Well, I know the facts. Actually, I've been very clear on the facts. Yeah. Well, Congresswoman, if you want to come on the show, I'd love to have you back.
The Supreme Court.
But you don't. Right. But if he's, I will just say this on the show, and you can come back. Just wait. Take a breath. If he comes back, let's say he is undeported, and Democrats are happy about that. If he's undeported, he will be deported from the United States. That will make you miserable, correct? That'll set off a whole new firestorm. Because what you care about is an immigrant's right to be here infinitum.
This is a
you don't want to report it. That's a real
wife. Yeah. This is a person who the Supreme Court has said needs to be facilitated back to the United States. That's a fact.
We got it. You will never support the deportation of this individual. That is the truth. Congressman, we appreciate it. I do appreciate you coming back to look at it, but that's it. It's on Live TV. Join me now, Stephen Millen, White House Deputy Chief of Staff. Stephen, your response. Hard to do these remotes. There's a little bit of a delay there, but I'm glad you came on.
To hear the words come out of her mouth is so disturbing and appalling. She and her party presided over the mass invasion of America. 20 million illegal aliens